We're heading into map number 1, which, as I stated, is going to be Paradise by table at the moment. I don't have any of the fastest stuff, so we're just gonna gloss over that at the moment. So we already went through the map presentations a little bit beforehand with the seeding phase. 1 minute and 17 of warm-up. It will be interesting to see how the Lithuanian player Bits, tech player from Numalops, from what I recall, and also the Baltic Trackmania Cup winner a little bit earlier this year, will fare in this step of the Open Grand League. This is very much his very first time in the top flights of the Open Grand League. His very first time reaching Challenger in step number 5. Then we also have the Flying Finn, Miquacho, who had a chance of actually getting some decent points on the board early in the season, but currently but did not manage to capitalize, and he's currently finding himself with a bit of a revenge opportunity to get himself some decent finishes in the Challenger the Challenger class. Then of course we have the Australian Penguin, Mutta, the leader of the Grand League steps. 3 steps win in a row. Can he make it step win number 4 in the books? We're gonna have to see how this goes. So far he's never finished lower than 2nd at the end of a Open Grand League step. We also got Wozil making another appearance in the Challenger match at the moment. We also got Binks, who managed to get through and move through into the Challenger match as well, after I spectated a little bit this server before the game decided to crap out on me. Then Mimo Jr. also coming back into there. Cap from KWK Esports, one of the firm favorites at the start of the season, is still in here, still looking to actually get himself that top 8 spot and get into the combine to get back into TMGL. So, map 1 about to get underway. Here we go, boys. A bit of action cam right now from the bumper of the cars that we're going to be heading toward checkpoint number 1 straight away after this U-turn, and the whole shot will be to Dofal, it seems like, with his 10.937 indeed. Wozil getting a little bit left behind before the entry to the dirt, so he's at the tail end of the field and last place with the leading pack well ahead of him right now. Well ahead, 2/10 ahead of him at the very least, as we're heading towards the jump section right now. The jump through the hole. Will anyone actually fail it? No, everybody managing to clear it nice and tidy here. Second jump, not cleared quite as well from Bits, so he finds himself in last place, although he manages to keep it on the road, not forced to respawn. Default a little bit further behind after leading the whole shot. He's down in P15, with currently Ugo, Binks, and Chalik battling for the top 3, with Miquacho having a bit of a wide line through there. Everybody, it's still pretty much anybody's game from P1 to P14 at this point. And Miquacho finding himself down in P14 and even P15 as Default overtakes him. Bits, meanwhile, is 1.6 seconds down in last position, unfortunately, for the Lithuanian player, as we're going to be heading back to the lead with Chalik and Super Kalov battling for the lead. Chalik having less speed at the freewheel, meaning that Super Kalov will get into the lead. Razi and Mutta, as well as Link, will get back to the fight for second position. Heading into the identity now. Mutta going for the spin, Carl going for the higher up line strat. Ooh, barely going on the outside and barely missing, falling out of the map. And meanwhile, ooh, Miquacho going completely out of the left field, completely west side, and messing up the identity. So he's down in P14, 2.6 seconds down on the leader, who's currently Razi, with Super Kalov in P2. Chalik having a slow landing at that small hump. Will be demoted down the leaderboard quite a fair bit, down to P7. Link up into P3, Carl touching the wall, so that's Link into P2. Dark in 3rd, and Mutta in P4 at the moment, still in battle for 2nd position with the fellow Frenchmans. With Super Kalov having made a few other mistakes now, and he's down in P16, last place for the 2006 World Champion. No good. And the start of this step, Hydra down. Ooh, what happened to Grenady? Grenady seemed to have made a mistake and full stopping just before the end of the dirt, so yeah, he's out, down in 12th position at the present moment, with Bits currently looking to climb back up the orders. Other people make mistakes, with Mutta and Razi in 1st and 2nd, Dark and Hugo 3rd and 4th, Link and Chalik 5th and 6th at the present moment. Default and Binks complete your top 8 so far, even though no point losses occurred for bottom 8 positions. Remember, this is the opening phase for this and Cyclone by Firestorm, which is going to come up later. Heading into the identity for the 2nd time for the top players, Razi and Dark. Actually, Razi having made a mistake before the identity. He's down in 5th place. Dark and Chalik emerging in 1st and 2nd. The 2 Outerworld players making it a 1-2 for their team. Actually, Dark has messed up the identity and got a slow exit, and he finds himself down in let's actually see, P9, P10. Yeah, P10, as we had a mistake. Binks! One of the players that was one of the outsiders who maybe had a chance to get back into the top 8 has had a pretty sluggish exit at the final part of the identity, so he's down in last, down in 13th position. No, he's not down in last. He's 13th. Last is Miquacho, unfortunately, down in 12 seconds on the leader with Bits in P15, 10 seconds down. Hugo has taken the lead as Chalik and Razi made mistakes, and so the NCP Sport driver finds himself in the lead with Link in P2 and Mudda in 3rd position. Hello, I guess we should say Timania, now that you said that you're reclaiming that name back. Hello, and yeah, glad I hope you're having a good weekend despite all the stuff that's happened to you in the recent times. But anyways, back onto the race. Sorry again for being a bit quick to the jump there. 1, 2, 3 right now with Hugo, Link, and Mudda. France in Australia, 1, 2, 3. Then Default and Cap battling for P4. Mudda almost touching the outside of the pole. That could have been really unfortunate, but Mudda managing to keep it together and off the wall. Meanwhile, the top 4 battle is catching back up to the top 2 battle, so it could be a 4-way fight for the lead. No, Cap has completely stopped at the checkpoint, so he's down in last place. Hugo and Link heading into the identity right now. First and second, Mudda in P3 heading into the 4th lap in 3rd place. Grenady back up to P5 after a pretty sluggish start to the race. Dark down in 6th place. Fastest lap right now, Hugo de Saint-Van, the leader, with the 1:24.744. Oh, you need to change. No, that's right. You need to wait 60 days to actually change your nickname in Twitch. Link in P2, Mudda in P3. Still looking pretty solid up front. Default and Grenady in P4 and P5. This could be the chance for Grenady to actually recoup some of the lost places during the start to actually get himself some decent points on the board. Currently, he's in for 9 points at the start of this step on map number 1, but theirs could potentially be 10 up for grabs if he manages to get back up to Default and overtake him. So it will be interesting to see how the wheel player from Wavy Esport does in this final section of the race, with the last 2 laps coming up shortly, with Mimo going back towards the tail end of the field. Mimo Jr. and Miquacho P16 and P15, 16 and 15 seconds down on the leader respectively. Then we got Cap a little bit further up the road with Bits in P13, Tialek, Hydra, and Razi battling for P10 at the moment, with Binks in P9, and Carl back up into the top 8. The OG car looking to, again, having to, very much like Grenady, trying to catch back up to the lead group and trying to get some, to recoup some of the lost places in the start. Mudda and Dofal going for the, spin. Ooh, Link has barely managed to keep it on the road. I can't believe it. He has not respawned, but that means he's got no speed for the rest of this identity, so everybody will be able to snatch past him. He's down in P7 with Woza having overtaken him, and he's back up to P6 after Woza had a sluggish exit as well. But yeah, the battle for 3rd now is promoted for a battle for 2nd as Grenady and Mudda are having a battle of their own. It's Germany versus Australia right now, with currently Hugo de Saint-Van half a second up the road, trying to pull the gap to the top 2 right now, and trying to make a runway for freedom, with Grenady having slowed down at the landing of this jump, forced to take the safe way. So he's down in P4 in favor of Default, who moves up into 3rd position for Team Autoworld. Dark in P5 and Tialek down in P10 after a pretty sluggish, after a pretty solid start for Tialek. That's pretty unfortunate for the manager of Team Autoworld, in fact, for Trackmania. Hugo, Mudda, and Default heading into the penultimate crossing of the turnover. Nicely done by all players right here. Turnover that's done using a reactor boost. Link and Supercal fighting for P6 at the moment, and Dark and Grenady battling for P4 right now, with Dark moving back up to 4th position at the expense of Grenady, as we're heading to the identity from the perspective of Default and Mudda in 2nd and 3rd. Default and Mudda going for the spin. Hugo going for the higher line without any spin, and it looks like it actually paying off for Hugo, who heads into the final lap in the lead with a gap of around 6/10 to Default in P2. Mudda in P3 is probably looking to do some damage limitation right now. He might not be actually chasing that 1st place after all. He might just be looking for those 12 points that come with a 3rd place finish. Currently, Grenady could be securing 10 points with that 4th place if he manages to keep Dark at bay for 1 more lap. He's got 3/10 of an advantage between himself and the Frenchman. But it will be interesting to see. He had a slow landing at the previous lap in this particular section. Now he manages to clear it pretty much perfectly here. Dark touching the inside. That's going to give a little bit of room to breathe. And Mudda having made a mistake as well. So Grenady is now finding himself in a battle not for P4, but for P3 at the moment, with 12 points on the line right here at the end of this map, with Default and Hugo having clearly run free from the people that are behind him. 2.1 seconds of a gap between Default and Grenady in 2nd and 3rd, and Hugo is up 9/10 on Default in first position, and it seems as though he's got this race under control and in the bag, as we're going to be heading into the identity for the 6th and final time in this step and in the regular season of the Open Grand League, since this is the last time that we're going to be seeing this map. Hugo again going for the no spin high line, Default going for the spin, and Default has messed up the spin. He finds himself down in the 9th position, and Grenady has moved up into 2nd place. Hugo wins in front of Grenady. Actually, Mutta has been overtaken by Carl. Carl in P3 at the end of it, Mutta in P4, Dark 5th, Binks 6th, Wizil 7th, Chalik in P8, Link, Razi in 9th and 10th, Cap in 11th, Miquacho in P12. Default has messed up again, and Bits has messed up again as well. Meanwhile, Default regains control of his tires, and he's in P13. Bits respawning at the end of that, P14 for Mimo Jr., P15 for Hydra, and unfortunately for Bits, it's at last place after what looked like P12, P13. With that small blunder at the exit of the identity, he finds himself down in last place. So, map 1 is done. Hugo de Soma takes the 20 points for first place, Grenady 2nd place with 14, 12 points for Carl, 10 points for Mutta, and 9 points for Dark, with Chalik equal 8 points with Binks in 6th and in 7th, as we're heading into map number 2, which is going to be Cyclone by Firestorm. So there we go. We're getting the map loaded finally. So this is map 2, which is Cyclone by Firestorm. As I said previously, as we actually casted the seeding in the actual Grand League, this was the scene of Tween's only 2 map wins of the season. The first one coming on step 3, taking the lead from Afi at the end of the towards the end of lap number 6, following a slower exit from the Swiss driver from Team BDS. And the second map win took hold last week with a battle between Pack and Tween that went right to the line, with Tween winning by 1/100th of a second from the Brits, scoring 20 points at that point. But unfortunately, that step went haywire for our man from the Pittsburgh Knights, as he did not manage to get any decent points on the board, unfortunately for him. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of a miracle for him to get back into the top 8 battle. But now back to the Open Grand League. Hugo, Grenady, Carl, and Mutta, your top 4 at the present moment after map number 1. Hello Insanity, hope you're doing good. So this ice bar, make sure to put your car high, keep it high for as long as possible, and then duck low and pitch it into a nice slide right now. Then make sure to actually be careful of that exit to not actually get a little bit too much of an angle, so you don't lose too much speed once the tires regain grip. And also make sure not to touch the wall or lose the ice slide in the middle of the corner, otherwise you're going to be heading towards the wall. Then there is the identity to actually take care of after this technical section with this final U-turn. Make sure to not land a little bit too low and go down too early, otherwise you're going to be sent back up just as early as you went, and you may be at the risk of getting either a free ride for another lap of the donut, or actually falling at the worst part, which is right, which will send you pretty much barreling over to before the start finish line and turtling over, which will yield to a double tap respawn, which is absolutely no bueno in the context of a Grand League step. Anyways, map 2 underway. Here we go. Everybody going to the right-hand side of the road, unlike Hizutaki during the seeding phase, where he actually did not take the booster, which is absolutely painful to look at. Meanwhile, Mutta has had a slower start compared to the rest of the field, so he finds himself in last place at the start of this race. Currently, it is Binks and Chalik trying to emerge in the front, with Hugo de Son and Super Kaluf following them behind, with Link also getting into the mix. Grenady and Bits also being left behind quite a bit, being left behind a little bit by the rest of the leading group, but ultimately managing to keep everything in check. Chalik pulling away from Hugo at the present moment, with Carl up into P3 as we're heading into the ice slide for the first time here. Nice ice slide from Chalik, but ultimately slower than Hugo, who catches back up to Chalik and tries to put him in second position as we're heading towards the identity for the first time. This is really looking close at the present moment after the first lap. Carl in P3, Link in P4, and Miquacho in P5. Miquacho trying to regain a few colors after that pretty paltry first map, where he unfortunately made mistakes really early on. Identity coming up right now. Oh, Link, that was a really low entry to Link. That was super scary, and that's going to be also slower for him as Binks, his teammate, moves up into P5, moves up into P4, ahead of the quadruple world champion of tech. Mimo Jr., Wozel, and Mi4 battling for P6 at the moment, and now for P5 with Link also having had a pretty rocky time. He finds himself slowing down ever so slightly. Dark and Cap battling for P9 and P10 with Mata currently sitting in P11. Actually, who was that? Who was that who made a mistake? It might have been Wozel. Yes, it is indeed the Game Ward player who finds himself down in P11 at the present moment. Grenady in P12 battling with Hydra for set 12th position. Meanwhile, at the front, it is Carl, Hugo, and Binks in 1, 2, and 3. Heading into the ice slide. Nobody losing the ice slide at the present moment. Binks having had a really good ice slide through there and not losing any speed whatsoever. Meanwhile, Hugo has made a mistake and touched the wall on the outside of the ice slide, it seems like. So he's down in P14. The early leader is completely out of contention for now, with Mata having had a really supreme second lap, moving back up to 3rd place with Binks and Carl just up ahead of him, having a bit of airtime there, allowing Dark and Cap to move back into contention. Chalik is just behind as well, with Link behind him as well. Oh, Link going high, Chalik going high really late there. That could have been catastrophic if he clipped that edge of the road. Starting lap 3, currently Binks has the fastest lap with a 1:12.160 to the credit of the Team XLT player at the moment. Currently chasing Super Carlo for the lead. 0.3 of a second between 1st and 2nd at the moment. Cap down to P6 as he's still in the battle with himself, Mata, and Cap as himself and Mata, as well as Chalik, who's keeping tabs on the proceedings of that battle for 3rd position right now, currently held by Mata, but it might not be for too long as the Australian is under threat from the 2 really rapid Frenchmen that are just behind him as we're heading into the ice part for the halfway point of the race. Chalik having a low entry through there, having less speed. Oh, he's lost it midway through, forced to double tap. That's losing a ton of momentum for the Team Outer World player. He's down in P7 at the checkpoint, down to P8 as Mimo Jr. passes him. Then Mi4 is next in line to get a slice of the pie, but himself is getting under threat from Chalik's teammate Dofalt, who tries to overtake him for B9. Meanwhile, at the front, Binks still trying to chase Carl, but Carl has managed to pull away from Binks at the moment. 0.7 of a second heading into the identity in favor of Dorian Vallée, aka Carl. Half a second now after a pretty good identity from Binks, it must be said. Heading into lap 4, 1:12.623 for Super Carlo on lap number 3. He was the fastest man on that lap. Mata down to P3. He sees that there might not be a chance to catch up for now, at the very least. 1.5 seconds of a gap between 2nd place and 3rd position. Now almost 2 seconds between Binks and Mata at the present moment, with Chalik and Mi4 again having a battle of their own in the middle of the pack for P8. Remember, this is the second of the no points lost maps, the final time where you get to actually build up a good bank of points and not suffer from anything for finishing in the bottom 8, so it will be extremely important for these people to actually get some solid points on the board. Chalik going too tight, forced to release that ice slide. Again, another mistake at the ice slide from Chalik, barely keeping away from the wall, so he finds himself down in P10 as a result of this. Meanwhile, Grenady moves up to P8. Mimo Jr. just ahead of him is his next target for P7 with 7 points up for grabs for finishing in 7th position. Sorry, as we're heading into the identity. What happened to Carl? I completely missed that, and Carl is down in P13. The leader has completely faltered, and so Mata has taken the lead of proceedings with Binks in P2 and Dark in P3. Cap and Mi4, as well as Cap currently in P4 with Mi4, Dofalt, Mimo Jr. and Grenady battling for P5 at the present moment. Currently it's Mimo Jr. in the lead, but that's protected hand time right there at that transition over the hills of grass by Mimo Jr. So he finds himself down in 8th place as a result of that slight blunder, with Mi4, Dofalt, and Grenady able to overtake him. And the gap's immediately been widened to around 0.3 between himself and the top 5 fight at the moment. Grenady going really high and low at the last second, and having a really nice ice slide through there, and less speed from Mi4, who had a bit of a weird recovery of grip at the exit of the ice part. So Grenady's up to P5 just like that, whilst Mi4 is now finding himself under threat for P6 by Dofalt, the Belgian player from Team Otterworld, trying to get a bit of a slice of the pie as well. Meanwhile, towards the bottom end of the field, Link and Bits are currently 21 and 27 seconds respectively down on the leader, which is currently Mudda, under threat from Binks heading into the final lap. So a battle for the lead is indeed brewing between the two. Binks sitting in P10 in the overall standings of the Grand League, while Mudda is the leader. He sits on 3 consecutive step wins. He wants to make it number 4, but he has to actually fight off against Binks, who tries to get back up the leaderboard and try to get some solid points on the board. He tries to make the Grand Slam on this map with fastest lap and the race win, which would net him 22 points, which would put him on 30 points and make him the step leader heading into phase 2. But Mudda is not having any of that. He tries to catch back up to the Frenchman and prevents him from getting said first place. And he touches the outside. He actually has his wheel stuck on the outside, and the leader has fallen down to P11, with Dark promoted up to P2. 6 stands down on the leader as a result of that. Kappa to P3, and Grenady, having had a slow exit of the ice rink, was temporarily up to P4, but loses 2 places to Mimo Jr. and Mi Quattro. And Chalik, next one in line to take advantage of that and profit from the mistake of Grenady. Grenady trying to keep him at bay really hard right here. You go back up to P8 as we're heading into the identity for Mudda for the final time in this step and in the regular season. Mudda managing to keep his descent in check and will be able to win the map here on Cyclone. Dark in second place, Cap in third, Mimo Jr. fourth, Mi Quattro fifth, Chalik in P6, manages to overtake Grenady at the end, Grenady 7th, Hugo in P8, Binks in P9, Default in P10, Carl in P11, Wozel 12th, Razi finishing down in P13, then we got Hydra in P14, Link in P15, and P16 unfortunately for Bits, who's way down. He's currently at the ice part right now as he messes up the ice slide. And will he be forced to respawn? No, actually, well, he will respawn, but that's a checkpoint has already been crossed, so he will be able to safely make his way through to the other side of the map. Actually retiring, so no points scored for Bits. Meanwhile, Mudda has taken the lead of the proceedings, takes the step lead with 30 points, 26 for Hugo in second, 23 for Dark in third, Grenady fourth with 21, and 16 points for Chalik and for Cap in fifth and sixth. We're heading into map number 3. We're heading already into stage 2 with a 50% points loss incurred for the bottom 8 finishes as we're heading into Circles by Link. So, recap after 2 steps. 30 points for Mudda, 26 for Hugo, 23 for Dark, 21 for Grenady, 16 for Chalik, Super Calif and Cap in 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th for Binks with 15 points, 13 points for Mi Quattro and Mimo Jr., then 11 points for Bozil, 8 for Default and Razi, 7 for Link, 5 for Hydra, and 1 for Biss, which you're currently seeing having a bit of a predicament after that sluggish checkpoint cross and a bit of a too wide line for Bits heading into the warm-up of this one with the ice part. So Mudda currently leading this step with 30 points out of the possible 44 that there are up for grabs for winning both maps with the fastest laps to boot. Still a decent track record for Mudda after having a pretty cautious start to his step, finishing in P4 in map number 1, taking the win on map number 2 as we're heading into the identity from the perspective of the Australian Penguin, managing to get a solid transfer out of there into the first, after the first transfer, then second transfer just over the signs, and he gets a lot of XP downwards as he heads towards the free wheel and towards the checkered flag to start another lap. 6 laps of Circles up right now at the end of this warm-up, and remember, bottom 8 will lose half of their points finishing on this map, and Bumpy Jumpy by Tona coming up next. The race is now underway for Circles by Link. Holshot for Hugo with a 5.421. Binks and Chalik in second and third. Currently Mudda in P8, and you can see the positions are quite widely varying here between all the players. No big mistakes so far from any of the challenger runners, with currently Mimo Jr. maybe a little bit lacking pace at the moment at the start of this race. Let's actually see how this goes on the ice. This is where Bits had a bit of a difficulty this time. He managed to cross the checkpoint pretty much safely here, with Mimo Jr. being well and truly left behind the rest of the pack, as we're going to be spectating Muzil at the present moment, going through the turnover section, keeping the car flush with the ground. Oh, who was that? That was Bits, actually, full stopping into the finish. So that's game over for Bits, unfortunately for him. Heading into the grass bar, dunking low and clipping the apexes of both grass corners as we're getting back up to the road here and getting into the identity right now for the first time in this step with Dark, Hugo, and Binks 1, 2, 3. Will anybody mess up the transfer? No, it's in the top 8 unless... Oh, actually, Mudda has messed up. Mudda is down in P15. That could be devastating for the Australian at the moment, with Hugo having taken the lead from Link and Cap in second and third. With the first lap done, it is still Hugo, Link, and Binks 1, 2, 3. Cap in P4. Carl, Default, Miquacho, and Dark battling for the top 8 at the moment. Dark having a bit of a rocky time through there, but managing to keep everything under control, as it seems as though Link made a huge mistake. It was Link who indeed made a huge mistake at the first ice part, and so he's down in P12. Wuzil catching him back up, trying to challenge for 12th position. Mudda, after that huge mistake at the identity, is down in P15 with Grenady just in front of it in P14. Meanwhile, Binks has taken the lead from Hugo, heading towards the turnover section of this map. Cap into P3, 2 tenths down on the leader, trying to catch back up to Hugo just in front of him. Carl in P4, then Default in P5. Dark, Razi, and Miquacho completing the top 8, and currently there is a gap of 4 tenths between the top 8 and Tialek at the moment, who's currently sitting in P9. As we're heading to identity for the second time with the Team Oddworld player with this team just up ahead of him. Oh no, Tialek full stop makes it, and he will not be able to even manage to get across there despite a full stop, so he's down in P15 as he is forced to respawn it, and he's going to respawn again. That's game over for Tialek, unfortunately. That's going to be 8 points down the drain, unfortunately for Tialek at this stage of the race. Map 3 underway with Binks, Cap, and Carl 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Carl trying to fend off the attacks of Hugo, who got overtaken pretty seriously after leading the race convincingly on the first lap. Default challenging for P4 against Hugo, as Cap has overtaken Carl for P2 at the moment. Razi, Dark, and Miquacho in 6, 7, and 8. We currently battle for P6 between Dark and Razi, with Miquacho also keeping tab of the proceedings, and the leader has fallen again. He's down in P14 now, Binks, who has led the race on lap 2. And so Cap finds himself in the lead of the race in front of Carl and Hugo in second and third. Default in P4, Razi and Miquacho in 5th and 6th, with Dark in P7 and Link in P8, with the position slightly reversed as we spectated that, with Mimo Jr. and Wuzil now potentially in contention for a top 8 spot, with the chance to keep their points potentially in the grasp of these players. Meanwhile, at the top 3, the transfer jump is nicely negotiated for Cap, Super Carlouf, and Hugo 220. Hugo 220 having tried to get a little bit more line with a bit of a higher apex at the transfer, but it does not work out. So he's down in P3 with Carl and Cap battling for the lead really hard at the first ice part, and they're neck and neck right now. You can see the two Frenchmen battling really closely between each other for the leading position at the present moment. Cap and Carl, first and second. Cap going towards the outside, trying to get a much wider line into the entry, getting much more speed in there, carrying much more momentum. Default back up into contention for the lead with P2 for him now, and potentially P1 as he tries to reel Cap in. It's a four-way battle for the lead at the moment, with Cap, Default, Carl, and Hugo within 2 tenths of each other. Razi's quite a bit down, with Dark just behind him in P6, and Miquacho and Link in 7th and 8th. Meanwhile, the step leader still finds himself 5 seconds down on P8 that is needed for safety, so it might very well be 15 points down the drain for Mudda at the end of that. It's not the end of the world to lose 15 points on there, but definitely kind of hampers the chances of actually getting yourself a step win on your hands. Meanwhile, the leaders go through the transfer jump for the 4th time in this race, as Cap is under threat from Hugo at the exit of the identity, and Cap has less speed at the exit of that transfer compared to Hugo, so Hugo will retake the lead heading into the penultimate lap. Cap down to P3 even, as he had much less speed than even Super Carlouf, who moves back up into P2. The 2006 World Champion still looking pretty strong out there, despite having a pretty sluggish start to the step in terms of the point scoring department. Defaulting currently sitting in P4, the Belgian trying to get himself a good step on his hands after having a pretty disappointing result in step 4. Then Dark, Razi, Miquacho, and Link in the top 8 at the moment. Link currently sitting pretty at the moment 3 seconds down on the leader. Currently around 9/10 ahead of Wozil in P9. Grenady in P10 is way farther down than Wozil would think. So Wozil is currently potentially having a loading race on his hands, heading towards the final lap of the race coming up shortly. Hugo and Carl 1 and 2. Cap in P3. Heading to the identity for this penultimate time in this race. Cap having a bit of a wide exit through there, being forced to correct it ever so slightly. That's going to drop a bit of time compared to the top 2 at the moment. Still crossing that transfer really nicely there, though. Cap looking really good at the moment for P3. Dofalt and Dark looking currently having an intra-team battle for P4 at the moment. Razi in P6, currently challenged by Miquacho for set P6, with Link in P8 still looking solid as he tries to fend off the attacks of Wozil, trying to fend off the challenge of Wozil, as Mata takes the fastest lap of the race with the 1:14.577 credited to the Australian, who finds himself at P11. So in case there's a mistake from some of the top contenders out there, and even top 9 from Wozil at the moment, there could be some points on the board. There could be a chance to keep the points on the board for the Australian, the leader of the Grand League, remember, heading into this step. Meanwhile, Carl has taken the lead from Hugo again, first and second and third for Cap at the moment. Doesn't really have any answers to the pace of the top 2 runners at the front. Cap potentially looking to save this one and bring the points home for third place, which are 12 points, which is still definitely a decent haul over the course of a single map. Meanwhile, Hugo might be looking to get himself the step lead after that, with 40 points potentially on the board at the end of it. If he does manage to not get overtaken by Cap, but Cap is now pressuring him for P2. Let's actually see how Hugo does in the transfer compared to Cap at the moment, but Cap with less speed. No, actually, Hugo has less speed at the exit of it, so Carl will win the map in front of Hugo, who takes the step lead after map number 3. Cap in third place, Dofalt, Dark, Razi, Miquacho, and Link into the top 8. Wozil in P9, Grenady P10, Mata P11, Hydra P12, Binks P13, Tialek in P14, Mimo Jr. in P15, and Bits will finish in last place. Lithuanian players currently crossing the identity for the final time in this race. Single points for Bits, whose score does not change after having his last place finish on map 1 and a DNF on map number 2. So, after 3 maps halfway through the step, we're seeing Hugo de Soma taking the lead of the step with 40 points to his credit. Carl in 36 points in second place, 32 for Dark in third, Cap in P4 with 28, Mata down to P5 with 21 points after that bottoming finish on circles. We're heading into map number 4 now, the second of the half points finish maps in this race, and it is going to be Tona's Bumpy Jumpy. So, Bumpy Jumpy from Tona, again, for those of you that may not have been tuned in during the seeding, let's actually take in a little bit at the take a little gander at the identity. So, they are consisting of this. It's consisting of this section on what we call the sausage road in the Trackmania language, or the bumper road, where you do have to make a few jumps through trees across this other side of the road. So here, start on the left side, jump over to the right side, then jump back over to the left side and back onto the right side again to land on the inside line for the remaining of the corner. You need around 300 to 310 kilometers an hour to clear these jumps properly. And by properly, I mean by landing right after the end of the curve of the bump road, because the curve can actually sap you a little bit of speed if you do land in the middle of it, if you do not have enough speed. Then there is a final jump to do right here between the tree and the hill at the final corner, and then land on the other side of the road, potentially towards the inside, to get across the start finish line to start a new lap. So this is pretty much Bumpy Jumpy with the major key things outlined, as we're seeing Dark going through the identity right now from high up in the sky. Dark managing to get a really good crossing through there in this warm-up, and managing to get the final jump, where we saw some people in the ground, even in the ground, getting a little bit trapped with this final jump right here in the trees, where well, also more specifically Mats, should I say, having being the only one not being able to make it through first time out in the in the identity, so in the final corner. So map 4 underway. We're gonna give it following cat action, heading into the ice part right now. Make sure to not go too high for right now. Oh, actually, Hydra going way up high, potentially losing a lot of speed after that, and potentially touching the wall. He managed to keep out of it, but he's down in 16th place for good now, at least. Or I say that, but Chelik touches the outside of the dirt, really uncharacteristic for Chelik to do, and he's down in last place now with Hugo de Salva. Razi barely managing to keep out of the wall before the reactor boost wall ride, currently crossed by Mutta in P6. Bits also having a really nice start for that, managing to take the lead before that. Oh, Mutta merely managing to missing the wall. That is such a scary case that can give a few heart flutters. Free will section for now. Make sure to keep enough speed at the exit of that. Binks going really close towards the wall to make that happen. Meanwhile, let's actually see towards the front. It's Grenady, Dark, and Binks. 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Link in P4 with currently Hugo currently sitting in the top 8. Sorry about that. It's not Corona. It's basically having a bit of a sore throat. Makes a sluggish landing at the after the second jump. Will be dropping in down to P12. Hydra touching the inside while he will not be able to clear the jump through the trees. Unfortunately, he's forced to get the slightly easier jump through there, and he's down 6.9 seconds, 7 seconds potentially down on the top 8 needed for safety. Meanwhile, Carl down to P12 with Mimo Jr. That could really be a hot time for some of the top contenders out there, with Hugo dropping down to P9 as currently Dark leads the field from Grenady and Link in second and third. Mutta up into P5, so the Australian looking good to actually retain those points after lap number 1. Currently chasing KWK Esports Cap, currently sitting in P4. Let's actually see if he's able to manage to make the move stick. Yes, he does before the dirt, and actually catches back up to Link to challenge for third place. Mi Quattro also being able to actually pass Cap in the end, but the battle is still raging on actually between those two players. Mutta and Link battling for P3, potentially for P2, as when he had a really slow exit out of that freewheel part. So yeah, he finds himself under threat from Link at the moment for P2. It's going to be settled over the identity, this one, potentially. Razi trying to fend off the challenge from Binks, who tries to retain those 11 points that were duly gained. Oh, what was that? Who was that? It was Hugo, who unfortunately finds himself down in P13 as a result of that huge blunder. Dark and Grenady still in the lead, first and second, then Link in P3. Mutta back up to E4 right now, moving up against Cap, with Link also having a bit of a rocky time in the ice, so he's down in P5. Positions varying quite widely here in the top 8 positions. As you can see, the gaps have widened quite a bit between the bottom 8. You can see Razi, Dolph, and Carl are currently the ones that could be in with a shot of retaining the points that they worked so hard to gain over the course of the first 3 maps, whilst everybody below 11th place is pretty much game over at this point, with Mimo Jr. being the first one right here. You can see right in the middle of the screen, with Dark, Grenady, and Link still 1, 2, 3 at the present moment, heading into the free will section. Nice and twisty section from Tona on this one. Nobody clipping the outside edge of the road on the blind jump, as we're heading to the identity again, 3rd time in a row. Mi Quattro now under threat for 3rd place with the battle between himself, Binks, and Cap, as Link has made a mistake. He's down in P6, and Mutta has made a mistake. He's down in P11, 3 seconds down. And the Grand League leader is currently sitting in a pretty precarious position, down to now on lap 4, down 4.8 seconds to Razi, currently sitting in P8, needed for safety, and he's himself not safe from anything. And Grenady, who was finding himself in P2, has dropped down to bottom 8 positions, currently sitting in P9 with half a second between himself and Razi right now, who's battling with Link for P7. Dolph up in P6 with Mi Quattro and Carl now back up into P4 and P5. Carl currently looking good to keep those points and potentially take the step lead, unless Dark to take the safe lead. But I say that Dark has currently the lead of the race. He's got everything under control. He's got the fastest step as well with the 112.921. So it will be up to him to get those juicy points and move into the lead of the step after map number 4. This could be 54 points at the end of it for Dark. At the end of this map for Dark, heading into map number 5 and 6, which will be stage 3 of the full points loss. Carl having made a mistake, he drops down to P7. Razi in P8, and Grenady back up to P5. So yeah, Grenady currently looking to be sitting pretty with his points tally right now. Meanwhile, Hugo, who was the leader of the step with 40 points, is down in P11, 4 seconds down on the top 8 needed for safety. So yeah, there seems to be quite a bit of a gap, and Link has made a mistake as well. He's down in P9, 3 seconds down, so there could be 6 to 7 points even lost for the Team XLT player at the moment. Penultimate lap with Dark leading by 9/10 in front of Cap and Binks, who are battling for P2 at the moment, and they're having a bit of a battle of their own. They're 8/10 down on Dark, but they are 7/10 up on Mi4 and P4. They are not under threat from anyone else but themselves right now, with the next battle brewing between Grenady and the Carl for P5 at the moment, and then battle for P7 between Razi and Dofal. Those two are pretty safe as well, unless a catastrophe happens from these players. As you can see from the helicam shot, that the gaps are quite wide between Dofal, Razi for the top 8, and Link currently sitting in P9 and being the first to lose half of his points. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on if there's any mistake from either of these players. But so far the leaders are having a bit of a trouble-free day so far, with Dark albeit reeled in by Cap currently retaining the lead of the identity. Binks in P3. Heading into the final lap, we got Dark, Cap, and Binks in 1, 2, 3. Dark still retaining the fastest lap of the race. Mi4 in P4, a little bit further behind than he would like to be. Grenady in P5 has managed to pull a gap of around 4/10 to Carl in P6 at the moment, with Razi in P7 still battling with Dofalt for P8. Although the Croatian driver has had his fair share of troubles, he's managing to actually keep that P7 and pull the gap to Dofalt to 0.3 of a second in heading into the final crossing of the reactor boost wall ride into this race. Mada back up to P10, albeit 6 seconds down on top 8, so it might not really matter at the end of it for either of the bottom 8 if there is any mistake from that, apart maybe from maybe Link and Mada, who might be in with a shot of retaining those points. But Mada having a bit of trouble with battle between himself, Link, and Wozel. This could be pretty interesting to watch. And Carl, who was battling for P5, has made a mistake in the freewheel section, and he's down in P8. So yeah, maybe this is where the mistakes start to creep in for some of these players. Meanwhile, at the front, nothing has changed. Grenady back up to P5. Mi4 is still in P4, and the top 3 still all French, with Dark, Binks, and Cap in that order. Heading towards the final jump and the checkered flag. Binks going too wide, and so Cap will overtake him. Dark will win the race. Cap in 2nd place, Binks in 3rd, Mi4 4th, Grenady 5th, actually Dofal in P6, Superkov 7th, and Razi will be in the top 8. Wozel finishing in P9, Mada in Link in P10, Mada in P11, Hugo in P12, Bits in P13, where he will have more points than gain more points than he loses at the end of it. Then Chelik in P14. Mimo Jr. finishing, Hydra in P14, Chelik in P15, and Mimo Jr. crossing down in last place to finish the race. So after 4 maps, it is going to be Dark who takes the lead of the step with the fastest lap to boot. So 22 points for him. Grand Slam for Dark, who takes 54 points on the board to take the lead of the step. 43 for Carl in 2nd. 42 for Cap in 3rd, 30 for Mi4 in 4th, and 26 for Dofalt in 5th. As we're heading to the break, we made it through 2 stages, with now just the last stage remaining, with the full points loss incurred for the bottom 8 finishes. So 54 points for Dark in 1st place, 43 for Carl in 2nd, Cap 3rd with 42 points, 30 points for Mi4 in 4th, 26 for Dofalt in 5th, 25 for Grenady in 6th, 24 for Hugo in 7th, and 8th place for Binks with 23 points. Razi 22 points in 9th place, 15 points for Mada in 10th place, 11th place for Link with 12 points, 11 points for Wozel in 12th, 8 points for Chelik in 13th, 7 points for Hydra in 14th, then 6 points for Mimo Jr. in 15th, and 4 points for Bits in P16. Heading into the first of the 2 full points loss maps here, the full Monka S and Monka Steer maps here, with map number 5, which is going to be Glacier Hiking by Firestorm. With this identity that you're able to see, get a little bit of a gander in and they get to see a little bit of a gander of the identity with this slalom through the ice, where the trick is to get the reactor boost at the 90-degree angle to actually get the reactor boost up and not the reactor boost down, and get forced down on the ice, so that you actually get road grip to get through the identity in less than the 6 seconds that the glider lasts for. Anyways, we're underway. Bottom 8 will lose all their points, ladies and gentlemen. It is the money time. This is where everybody manages, this is where the big point scorers need to get their act together. Hydra currently towards the tail end of the field as where he heads towards the safe way through the jump, and he doesn't make it, so he respawns as well. Bits is down in last position. Hydra, what happened to Hydra? Yeah, Hydra has, no, it was Bits actually who respawned. Hydra managed to make it. It was Bits that actually respawned, so he's 9 seconds down already on the top 8 needed for safety. Currently at the tail end of the field, we find Mimo Jr. and Cap having a battle for P12, heading into the ice right now. Nicely done from Mimo Jr., even though he's currently sitting in P13. Now into the slalom. Dofal having a pretty slow first part of the slalom, so he finds himself down in P11 as a result of this particular mistake, and he finds himself even further down as he tries to clear that jump through here. Nicely done. Heading into the identity right now with Mutta, the Australian Penguin currently leading the race, getting the reactor boost. Nicely done here. Forced to go crisscross right here, going crisscross right here compared to Miquacho, who managed to actually keep it on the right side of the road. Miquacho currently battling for survival right now alongside Cap, Link, and Wozil. And everything looks to be pretty dandy right now for Miquacho, currently sitting in the top 8, 1 second between first and 8th, and you can see still a pretty good battle going on for the top 8 positions, with still 5 players within a second of the top 8 needed for safety at the present moment, with Dofal currently the last one to be under the second with P13 right now in the books. Carl currently sitting in P11, then 10th and 9th with the Tialik and Cap, who are right in the brawl for the top 8 positions. This is where everything's kicking off. Grenady having a slow exit at the first part of the slalom, so he finds himself potentially under threat of losing those points. Meanwhile, Dark is currently catching the leader back up. Mutta currently under threat for first place, heading into the identity for the second time. Nice usage of the glider right here, and Miquacho again managing to keep that car into the right side of the road on the first part of the crossing, and managing to cross the identity before the glider puts him back on the road. So definitely quite some going from Miquacho, enabling him to stay within contention for the top 8. But he forced to release at the jump right here. He's down at P11. That's not good. This is not what needed to happen for the Flying Finn, and he clips the bit on the inside of the platform, so Razi scoots by him. He's down in P12. This could very well be the starting to unravel, unfortunately, for Miquacho, who was looking to get a good step on the board. It's all kicking off, starting to really go haywire for the Finn as Carl sits in P9, Wozil in P8. The battle for top 8 is still really strong out there. Grenady back up to P3 after that sluggish X6. No, Carl touching, clipping the inside. Bing scoots by him, and Carl is down to P10. He will not be able to clear the second hill, I'm afraid. Or he's still able to clear the second field. Oh, what happened to Binks? No, it was not Binks. Who was it? It was Hugo who actually made a mistake. Meanwhile, Identity managing to be crossed perfectly by Grenady at the moment. Mutta in P1 at the moment, halfway through the race. Lap 4 started 455, sorry. 101.455 for Mutta, who is the fastest lap of the race at the moment. Dark in second, Cap and Link in third and fourth. Tialik, Grenady, Wozil, and Carl managing to get back up into the P10. P8 needed for safety. Then just 1 second behind, we find 3 drivers still in with a shot of keeping those points, with Razi, Miquacho, with Razi and Hugo in 9th and 10th, and Binks a little bit further behind, currently left behind by the rest of his fellow competitors, with Razi being the one to potentially get the attack firsthand on Carl at the exit of the ice. Razi up into P8 and Hugo up into P9, so Carl down in 10th place just before the slalom section. 43 points are on the line for the 2006 World Champion, so it is extremely important for him to get back on the ball and trying to start to perform really nicely here. Mutta, meanwhile, Identity crossing number 4 for the Australian Penguin, still in the lead of the race by 2 seconds from Dark. Still Holder being the fastest lap of the race so far, and Grenady has made a mistake at the Identity. The German wheel player from Wavy Esport is down in P13, as Cap has also made a mistake. 42 points potentially down the drain for the early leader of the Grand League, of the Open Grand League at the very least. And so Carl, the 2006 World Champion, finds himself in a safer position than he was right now, than he was previously. Currently sitting in P7 with 43 points in the bag. He's 1.3 seconds ahead of Miquacho in currently sitting in 8th. Then Binks trying to take the fight to Miquacho for P8, and he manages to get a much better ice slide than the Finn through there, so he is in 8th place at the present moment. Meanwhile, back up in the lead, Dark getting overtaken by his teammate Tialik, putting one up on him and moving up into second position. as we're heading into the final lap with the identity crossing right now. Coming in from Mata, still in the lead and still managing to get that sweet first place heading into the final lap. And Hugo managing to get back up into third. Third place right now for Hugo de Saint-Vin, who also holds the fastest lap of the race. He's below the 101s with the 100.833 on the books. Chalik up in second place, and Dark down to fourth place as he was looking pretty good after the first few laps. He is starting to fall to his pace is starting to wane a little bit in light of the pace of the players. Meanwhile, Razi, Carl, and Link 5th, 6th, and 7th, with Binks in P7, Link in P8. Wozel in P9, 2.6 seconds down on the top 8 needed for safety. So it seems as though we got some pretty big point scores with Cap and Grenady, as well as B Quattro, potentially on the verge of losing some pretty big points as a result of that. Razi overtaking Dark, and Dark has fallen quite a bit in terms of pace. He's fallen off the cliff, as we like to say, as we're heading into the final identity crossing for Mata. He takes the win of the map right here, right now. Mata wins in front of Tialek in P2 and Hugo in P3. Razi finishing in P4, Dark in P5, Carl in P6, Binks in P7 in front of his teammate Link, and then Wozel in P9 loses 11 points, Mino Jr. loses 6 in P10, Grenady up into P11, still loses 25 points, 30 points lost for Mi Quattro, 42 for Cap, unfortunately for him. Then 14th place for Hydra means he loses 7 points, and Default has decided to have a little bit of fun. He might not get any points on the board though. 26 points lost for the Belgian, and Bits has retired for the second time in this step. Having retired on map 2, he retired on map number 5, so no points on the board for Bits, who's going to be with a virgin score, and we might even see a retirement from Default. He's going to try to complete the race backwards and decides to throw it in forward after a cheeky little J-turn and get back in the forward moving position. He probably realizes that, and he decides to DNF. So no points for Default and Bits. Meanwhile, up front, it is going to be still Dark in the lead of the step with 63 points, 51 for Carl in second place. Then Hugo in third with 38, 35 for Mata in fourth, and 32 for Razi in P5 as we're heading to the sixth and final map of the step, which is going to be Dune by Table. Hello, Hofi. Hope you're doing good. Sorry if I don't have the white people happy enabled on the server, unfortunately. I completely messed that up. So, checking in on Dune by Table. Overall, a pretty flowy map, it must be said. Rather, not really anything particular to it aside from the identity, which is going to be absolutely paramount. So before the identity, you get this transfer up the dirt towards the other dirt quarter pipe, and then this identity, which is comprised of 3 U-turns with reactor boosts. So the key here is to pitch your car at a bit of an angle when you drop down the road and hit the reactor boost, and actually find the right angle to initiate a bug slide as you land in the dirt, which is exactly the same as input as a grass slide, and try to clear that U-turn thanks to the bug slide. You need to keep it all the way through the corner, otherwise you're going to be careening into the wall or falling outside of the corner and being forced to respawn, which will be devastating. So there's one U-turn to the right, one to the left, and another one to the right, where it is really important to get it and avoid touching the side of the wall, and avoid getting a little bit of an axe tap at the exit with the left rear to avoid snapping speed and to avoid losing speed a bunch before you start across the start-finish line to start a new lap. You can see the identity being crossed by Mata at the moment, currently Hugo, and you can see Mi Quattro having made a bit of a mistake there, doing a little bit towards the side at the exit, and he will be forced to respawn at the entry to that identity as he crossed right here. He was forced to respawn at the first checkpoint at the bottom of the screen. So, final map of this Open Grand League step. Bottom 8 will lose all the points. Here we go. Everybody remaining closely together as we head into the first checkpoint. The whole shot will be for Chalik with a 10.831. Heading to the first drift of the track, it is going to be Super Kalouf who retains the lead, with Bits also really close in second position, having a strong start at the moment, with Mimo Jr. in last place at the moment, but still no big mistakes so far from either of the runners of this challenger match so far. Carl still taking the lead and now trying to pull away from the rest of the from the rest of the pack, trying to make a run for freedom at the front, but Wozil is trying to keep him in, the 2006 World Champion in check at the moment, with Hugo and Binks also following through with Cap, Grenady, and Dark completing the top 8. Mata trying to keep these points as much as he can. He tries to get at least some decent points on the board and trying to get a good step on the board. He's trying to retain his lead of the Grand League. Meanwhile, Binks, who is currently with 30 points on the board in second place of the race, is looking to try and dislodge some of the players out of the top 8 and try to get back into the contention for a combined slot, as we're heading into the identity for the first time right now, following the perspective of XLT's Link, teammate from Binks. No mistakes so far from the top 5, with Binks maybe having a bit of an early landing through there, and Binks will be dropping down to P11. He's forced to respawn. Mata as well has managed to has completely faltered at the very first part of the identity, so he's down in P13. They're already 3.5 and 6.2 seconds down on the top 8, leading for safety respectively. So 30 and 35 points on the line. Cialek has also had a really rocky first lap, 11 seconds down on top 8, currently held by Wozil. Hunter's threat from Hydra at the moment. Meanwhile, up front, Carl pulling away from Grenady, managing to get snatch yourself a P2 in this one right now. Then Link in P3 battling it out with Dark to retain third place and keep the Underworld driver at bay. Then Cap in P5, Hugo, Razi, and Wozil complete the top 8, and he pulls away from Hydra at the moment. 1.23 seconds between the Game War driver and the MTP Esport driver. Carl currently holding the fastest lap of the race after lap number 1 with 123.638. Grenady behind him 6/10 down, so not too far away from the 2006 World Champion at the moment, heading into the dirt transfer, heading into the identity for the second time in this step. Carl's got the angle, he's got the timing of the at the landing as well. So first one done, second one, Grenady having a slow exit, and Carl has lost the lost the buck slide through there, so he's going to find himself down in P6 as everybody manages to go past him, and Dark moving up to second place is well within striking distance of Link in first place. Grenady down to P3, and so Dark might be in with a shot of actually winning this step for good this time around if he manages to keep that pace under control. Meanwhile, Binks down in P10. 2.3 seconds down on the top 8 needed for safety. Currently catching back up to Hydra in P9. Razi currently holding top 8 with 32 points, 3.1 seconds down on the leader at the present moment. Wozil up into P7. Carl down to P6 after that blunder at the identity. Cap in P5. Link currently still leading from Dark, around half a second between themselves at the next checkpoint. Grenady in P3 under threat from Hugo for third place, and the French driver from MTP Esport moves up into third position with 38 points on the board for Hugo, and he's currently trying to challenge for second place even for that particular race with Dark, the next target. Carl back up to P5, currently trying to get back up to P5, trying to make the move stick on Cap before the dirt transition, managing to make it so. Next battle up ahead for second place between Grenady, Hugo de Sama, and Dark is still looking to be pretty hot on paper. Let's actually see if Carl managed to get the crossing through the buck slide so far. Oh, Link was pretty slow out of there, so he finds himself down quite a bit. Hugo as well, Dark as well, so the order has been changing quite a bit, and we're finding Grenady and Cap some of the lowest point scorers in the step so far. 4 points and 3 points, currently leading first and second. Link in third, currently battling with Carl for the benefit of third position at the present moment. Dark in P5. And unfortunately, Mata well and truly out of it for now. 4.3 seconds down on Wozil, currently sitting in P8. P8 is needed for safety and for keeping all these points on the board. Grenady still leading strong and currently holding really strong against Cap, keeping him at bay nicely here, around 6/10 between first and second at the moment. Meanwhile, Carl is embroiled in a fight with Link for third position, with Hugo half a second behind in P5, keeping an eye out for the proceedings with Dark a little bit further behind in P6, looking to also profit from that battle if anything dramatic happens. Link taking the advantage over Super Karlouf just before they jump into the dirt part, but that may not be for too long. As we're heading towards the identity right now for the fourth time in this race. Carl sitting in P4. We got Hugo behind, chomping up the bit as well. Link going too wide, forced to respawn. And Hugo also having a really nice identity through there. Oh, that was really close at the exit of the second U-turn. And Carl hits the wall. Carl hits the wall. So Carl down to P5. Meanwhile, Link is down to P8. Thankfully for him, it's not too much of a big deal, although now he will feel the pressure from Wozil and Binks, who are in with a shot of potentially getting back into the top 8 needed for safety. Meanwhile, Grenady still holding the lead in front of Hugo de Saint-Vin, who managed to take second place from Cap at the identity with a supreme identity from the MTP Esport player, who managed to get through into second place. Mata currently sitting 2.6 seconds down on the top 8 needed for safety, currently held by Link, but still has the fastest up of the race right now with a 1:21.124 in favor of the Australian. Grenady still holding strong, but he sees the gap getting shorter and shorter between himself and Hugo, who's reeling him in ever so slightly, slowly but surely. The MTP Store driver is getting away, and he hits the respawn. He hits the side of the transfer, so Hugo finds himself way down in P10 and even P11 as Mimo Jr. P12 as Mimo Jr. overtakes him. So Grenady holds the lead by 1.1 second in front of Cap in second place. Meanwhile, Dark, oh, what's happened to Dark? He hits the checkpoint, so Carl up to third. Dark down to P6, P7. Binks up in there. Link down to P9 after apparently a mistake from the XLT driver. Dark in P7, P8 even, as Wozil overtakes him. And now this could be scary for Dark. Maybe this step 1 is not that easy after all. There's still Link to try and contend with, and we know that Link is potentially able to keep Dark at bay and reel him in, potentially for those final finishes. Mota 1.4 seconds down on the top 8 battle. He can see Dark right there. He can see that there could be a chance for retaining those 35 points. Meanwhile, Grenady and Cap are settling in nicely themselves into the race, with Carl in P3 looking to bring those 14 points on. Those 12 points on the board, and keep those 51 points in the bag. As Dark and Link, the battle is brewing ever so closer to the as we're heading towards the identity right now between all of these people. Meanwhile, let's actually focus back up on the front with Grenady moving to the identity as the leader, potentially winning a map on the final lap of the step. Second, crossing nicely done. Third, bug slide, and it will be Grenady winning the map ahead of Cap, getting a bit of a back tap in second place. Carl in third, Rossi in P4, Default in fifth, Binks in sixth, Dark seventh, and Wozil made a mistake. Mata is through and keeps his points for P8. Link loses 18 points, Wozil loses 5, Mimo Jr. loses 5, Hydra loses 3, Mi Quattro loses 4, Hugo will lose 38 points at the end of that race, finishing in P14. Bits should be crossing the start-finish line in a few moments' time with the U-turns coming up, and will actually score 2 points as a result of that. Remember, he hit map 6 with a virgin score as he DNFs in map 5, so 2 points for Bits at the end of the map in P15, and Chelek in P16 will lose those 22 points and only score a solitary point at the end of the step. So at the end of it, it seems as though we might have Dark still in the lead by a few points from Carl in second place. Yeah, 70 points for Dark, who wins the step then ahead of Carl with 63, and Mata completes the podium with 43 points, 1 point ahead of Razi in fourth place with 42 points, and fifth place for Binks. So Dark scores 10,000 points, 98.65 for Carl in second place, 97.35 for Mata in third, 9,600 for Razi in fourth, 94.65 for Binks in fifth, 93.35 for Grenady in sixth, 9,200 for Cap in seventh, and 90.65 for Default in P8. Link, Wozil, Mimo Jr., Hydra, Mi Quattro, Hugo de Saint-Vin, Bits, and Jalek will complete your top 16. Ranking reveal in 3, 2, 1. So, after 5 steps, it is Mata who will be your leader of the Open Grand League with 48,935 points to his account. Carl in second place with 47,065 points. Link in third place with 46,665 points. Then Cap on the same tally of points in fourth position on countback of finishes. Then fifth place for Dark with 46,265 points. Sixth place for Chelek with 45,870 points. Then seventh place for Default with 45,465 points. And then Hugo de Saint-Vin, a surprise after the rather late show up in the Challenger League, it must be said, over the past few steps, then Hugo de Silva completes the top 8 with 45,135 points.